especially after COVID. A lot of companies just go after growth, and then now you see the repercussions of those companies. It's difficult for them to even survive. Many of them just don't get the market size right, and that's when things kind of go south. But if you get the product right and your assessment of market right, and then I think it's a steady path. A CFO function, being a fiduciary function, I would say plays a much more important role. It's not just oiling the engine. You need to also apply brakes wherever you need to. Otherwise, the organization can just slide away, right? Artificial intelligence is coming. You just can't stop it. But at the same time, you act like a bridge between the data, the accounting, all the other facets of finance and the business. And that's the CFO function that I see in future.
Hey, welcome to the first episode of COPATALKS, the CFO podcast brought to you by Bluecopa. Here, we bring you unfiltered access to conversations with veteran finance leaders covering key milestones and challenges in their journey through stories. Have you wondered what happens behind the scenes of building a profitable business? Or how to find the right CFO for your organization? Or how to groom young leaders into tomorrow's CFO? Then this episode will strike the right chord. Meet Girish, the India CFO at Varian Medical Systems. With almost 2 decades of experience and leadership roles at PwC, Dell and HP Enterprise, Girish is a revered finance leader in the Indian CFO community. Girish brings a lot of wisdom to the conversation today. So without any delay, let's get into the chat.
Hey Girish, so glad to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Guru. Happy to be part of COPATALKS.
Yeah. How about we start with you? Can you take us through your early days, your entry into finance, and perhaps the journey since then?
Sure. Probably I'll go back a little bit longer in time. I, like in many households in India, or much more in South India, most of the kids take science as just a preferred subject, and I too did
Yeah.
that for my 11th and 12th. And I kind of landed up with an engineering college seat, but I was really not so happy to go with science. And that's when
Mm-hmm.
I started, in that short period of time, I started thinking about other options. And I happened to meet my cousin, who is also a chartered accountant, a senior chartered accountant. Then I found it very interesting as he started explaining the world of finance,
Yeah.
and that's how my journey started early. And after my CA, start off my career with Pricewaterhouse into statutory audits. I did that for about 5 years, and then I got an opportunity to get into the industry through Dell. Fantastic organization, great institution, I would say, in terms of learning. I got an opportunity to explore various roles, right from accounting, internal audit, fp&a, and then business finance. So as I grew, I did it over the 7.5 years. And after that, I
Mm-hmm.
got an opportunity to get into Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I started off my journey there as head of finance for services business. A couple
Mm-hmm.
of years down the line, I was promoted to be the India CFO, handling a
Oh,
P&L
wow.
of close to $600 million.
Wow.
Very complex, B2B, segment, but across product, services, software. It was a great learning for 3 years, and then now I'm CFO for Varian Medical Systems.
Mm-hmm.
Varian is into the field of oncology. Uh, we make products, radiotherapy equipments, treating cancer patients.
Mm-hmm.
The motto of our company is to create a world without fear of cancer. And that's
Yeah.
that's the vision that we have. So I'm thoroughly enjoying this role. While spearheading finance, there is also a mission that we are after,
Absolutely.
and that kind of gives a dual happiness.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Uh, Ever since you were answering this, there's been just one question on top of my mind. How did you go about convincing your family that you're picking the third option? There's science, there's medicine, or this, technology, and there's medicine, and there's commerce, which is the third option. You ended up
Yeah.
doing science. And how did you even convince your family saying that, I'm actually going into the world of commerce? It's if there's anything that people could learn from today, it's going to be this convincing part as well.
Yeah, it was tough. It was the mindset those days was that if you are taking up anything other than science,
Hmm.
you're kind of a dullhead. But
Yeah.
that that was the perception. But my parents, luckily, they supported me quite a bit. They knew that I was pretty serious about what I wanted to do, and they just believed in me and said, yeah, just do whatever brings you happiness. And that was easy with parents, but not so much with the outside world. But over a period of time, as you convince yourself and then start making it happen, then it kind of falls in place.
Got it, got it. I think it's a happy ending now. You've done really well for yourself.
Yeah, still a long way to
Casually
go though.
throwing out,
Still a long way to, I would say. Yes.
casually throwing out, the accolades and the sort of responsibilities that you held at $600 million and so on. I think
Yeah.
your family
Yeah.
must be extremely proud of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
All right. So the people that we've spoken to, especially the ones who either worked with you or interacted with you, often associate with you a couple of words or keywords to call it. Someone who has a profitability mindset, a winning mindset, who knows how to win, and has an extreme bias to execution. So we're discussing more towards that today. I want the
Sure.
unfiltered insights about that from Girish.
Yeah.
Starting with, why does one need to have a profitability mindset?
I think it's I would simplify it more than making it complex.
Hmm.
Every business has to make money, right? A balance sheet and P&L kind of go together hand in hand. You need to be profitable and then you make money, right? But at the same time, it's not easy to start a business and be making money right from day one, or
Yeah,
be profitable right from day one. You need that support. You need that cash. You need to make those investments into product, into marketing, brand building, so on and so forth. And then, slowly and steadily, you need to get to that level of profitability.
yeah,
I think that's where you see a lot of debate these days, right? Especially after COVID, uh, a lot of companies just go after growth, and then now you see the repercussions of those companies. It's difficult for them to even survive,
shots
and that's what
fired.
happens. It's a no brainer. You can't manage it over a long run.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think post COVID, the emphasis on profitability has shortened up so much. In marketing language, I think it's one of the trending words today.
Yeah,
Companies really need to look at profitability.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely, absolutely.
Following that with, how does one overcome the challenges, and what do you think are the challenges with building such a mindset?
I think I would say the challenges are within the organization as well as external, right?
Hmm.
Internal to an organization, you need to bring that consensus. You need to make people aware of the the pros and cons of both, right?
Yeah.
So how do you start? And that's the strategy you need to build, short term and long term.
Hmm.
And then from an external point of view, you always have competition, and ultimately it's how your product performs, how your product is premium to other products, and how we are able to get the right pricing out of it.
Yeah.
And also services, right? You have product and services which kind of go hand in hand. Product brings you immediate revenue, and then services, and the all the attach that goes along with it, brings you long term revenue as well as profitability. So I think these are the two facets that one needs to take care.
Hmm.
um, Internal alignment, that is very challenging, and then you have competition from outside. you need to have a right mix, right set of this thing to strategy to manage both the challenges.
Got it. Got it. And you've been advising a lot of CFOs or a lot of startups, in fact, in terms of their finance, operations, their strategy, and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, Quickly answering this, how easy or how difficult is it to build a profitable business today as to 20 years ago?
I think it is, business has changed. The framework of business has changed quite a bit, right? 20 years ago it was mostly B2B, and now if you see, there is a lot of traction in the B2C segment, especially in
Mhm.
the last 1 decade or 1.5 decades, right? So that's the challenge. B2B has a different strategy to go after, and B2C is different. You need to burn
Mhm.
cash initially, and it's also very very fast moving, right? So that's where I do interact with a few startups and founders, and caution, go with caution,
Mhm.
get your product right and the
Yeah,
market sizing right. Many of them just don't get the market size right, and that's when things kind of go south. But if you get the product right and your assessment of market right, and then I think it's a steady path. You just cannot, if you are able to sustain your cash and still achieve these objectives of product penetration and the right sizing of market, I think you are up for a long run in the
got it.
business.
Got
Yeah.
it. One of the common things that I've been noticing with between B2B or the difference being B2B has always been a high margin business, and B2C has been comparatively lower margin business, right? And here
Volume.
the need for, yeah, because it's a volume game, absolutely.
Right.
So the need to be profitable is immense, is essential, mandatory.
Yeah.
So this 15 years, the B2C era being having grown up, what do you think companies should do specifically just for these B2B segments in a checklist of one, two, three items to be more profitable?
I think I kind of said that already, but internally you need to work very closely with your business leaders. It is not just talking about it constantly, but also you need to back it up with data, right?
Mhm.
Only when you show the mirror of how we are doing with data, that's when it strikes the right mindset.
Got it.
With data and the tools that are available, plenty of tools available nowadays, especially Power BI and the tools that you guys are making at Bluecopa, fantastic dashboards coming out with. That's the only way to keep reiterating that this is where we are. Cut and slice the segments, be it the product segment or the customer segment. You get the a right area to go after, right? And
Yeah.
that's when you can move the needle. As I've been saying, CFO plays the role of a strategist nowadays, rather than just closing the books or
Yeah.
building the P&L. It is more of giving the direction to the business,
Yeah.
and that's very critical. And you have to keep doing that day in and day out.
Great segue. I was just getting to it next. CFOs of today are expected to have a tremendous metamorphosis in terms of how they operate, in terms of what skills they acquire, and everything. So, for a CFO of today or tomorrow, what do you suggest them to acquire in terms of skill sets to be someone successful or better? What's a winning CFO looking like?
I would say, fundamental is you need to know how to read a balance sheet and a P&L, right? That comes from your degree.
Yeah,
That's a trait that cannot be compromised. And then as you get into the real world, that's when you build the other traits of communication and inclusiveness. You can't
yeah,
just work in silos. You need to take people along, right? And this is another big trait. And of course, honesty and integrity. That's like it cuts across everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And a CFO function being a fiduciary function, I would say plays a much more important role. It's not just oiling the engine. You need to also apply brakes wherever you need to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the organization can just slide away.
Yeah.
People can do crazy stuff, but you need to keep the keep the people honest. And um, as I said, the strategic mindset is a given now. You
Hmm.
need to have that transparency and this thing to show what how the business is doing, and keep guiding the teams along, and say that these are the segments, these are the areas that need to have special focus. Keep the balance sheet clean, collect money, keep the cash flow right. All the things that a CFO has to do, has to come together, uh, and keep the broad mindset, right, and then not just be focused on one particular area.
Got it. Got it. I think this broad mindset seems very interesting. Can you zoom in a little on that? Do you recommend them having a lot of experience across the breadth of finance?
So I would say twofold answer, right? One is experience brings these traits out, and personally, as I started off, this discussion, I had the privilege of working in different roles in the beginning. That is
Hmm.
one way to broaden your horizon. Be it accounting or corporate audit or tax or various functions within finance, treasury. Then you get a whole rounded approach, and you understand in depth what a role each of those roles give. But yeah, not everyone is fortunate to get this kind of exposure. That's when experienced individuals go into MBA institutes.
Yeah.
Nowadays fantastic courses are being offered
Yeah.
to get this kind of perspective, and also to get an outside in perspective. And
Hmm.
also, the third point I would say is, if one can get an opportunity to work in business or
Hmm.
operations or a non-finance role,
Okay.
it will play a significant role in kind of reshaping your career, I would say. And
That's
I would
interesting.
say personally, my corporate audit role at Dell was really a non-finance role.
Oh,
It's slightly different from the traditional internal audit function that many organizations have. So I worked with various business leaders, and after coming back from that role, I mean, now my perspective about finance completely changed. So I think these are some of the things that a growing finance professional can keep in mind. It
got it.
will augur well when he or she becomes a CFO, right? All of this will help.
Got it. So when someone takes up this business, responsibilities, operational responsibilities, what do you think that they acquire is something that's going to help them back in the finance role? Any specific things that come to mind?
I think it just broadens the way you think. You have a very finance-oriented thinking and questioning, and always posing questions. There in business, you just can't. You're in front of the customers. You're in front of this thing. So customers are extremely demanding, and so are the
Mhm.
other functions. If you are in an operations role, you're kind of
Mm.
caught in between various functions, right? You are in the thick of it, you're in the action thing, right? So that's the different perspective you get, right? Why one needs to provide solution rather than just ask questions, right? It's easy to ask questions, but have a solution oriented mindset, and then it's completely different.
Yeah, gotcha. That's a good one. Good. Mm. Over the years, you've nurtured a lot of CFOs as well, or like you've not nurtured a lot of finance leaders who've ended up becoming CFOs. How do you spot a potentially good CFO for an organization?
I more than a CFO, I think that would be a stretch. I would say, I would always look for the right attitude.
Hmm.
Somebody, somebody who has a good education background, whether it is a CA or a MBA, coming from a good institution, will have the basics right. But I
Hmm.
think right attitude, and who is courageous to express his or her views. As I said, finance is one function where you're expected to provide insights, not just from business point of view, but also keep the house clean, so to speak, right? So that is very, very critical. You need to spot the areas where things are looking very bleak, and then come back and highlight this to the management and say that, hey, something is off here. I think this is where we probably need to focus a bit more on controls, building controls, processes. All these are very, very critical, and that comes from the team. It cannot just happen sitting in the CFO's desk, right? These
Yeah.
things, identifying weaknesses, identifying where we need to improve, working very closely with the auditors, working very closely with the internal audit teams, tax teams. So that's when you kind of you need to have that right attitude to
Yeah.
work with various people, and then have that winning mindset comes. That is very, very critical for me, and that's what I've been always pushing people to have that. And then I think you always end up with success. There is no doubt about it.
Got it. All right. Pick your choice. Externally hire a CFO for a mission, or internally elevate a finance leader to CFO.
I think it's a tough one. I would say the right thing to do is to promote internally.
Hmm.
Because somebody who has spent a lot of time within the organization has to be rewarded. Who has
Hmm.
done right, who has done all the things, ticked all the boxes. It's always good. There is a lot of acceptability within the organization. Uh, but the only downside, but I will pick up the other one. If you
Hmm.
get an external CFO, you get a fresh perspective, freshness to
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yep.
May not be found acceptable immediately, but as he or she gains ground, then you could see some drastic changes happening. But it's
Yeah.
it's a I would say it's there is no right or wrong answer. But I would still prefer to bring up somebody from climbing up the ladder. But if that is missing and somebody is not
Okay.
ready to take that role, I think external is fine. But yeah, that's a tough choice, I would say.
Got it. Just validating one of my assumptions here. Does time to ramp up or time to get started with the mission play a huge role here when picking your choice as someone internal opposed to an external?
Absolutely, time is of the essence, right?
Okay.
You That's when okay. The other side to look at it is, I think I'll touch upon, if there is a
Hmm.
CFO who has CEO who has resigned, or there is a gap. The
Oh,
the
okay.
CFO's role is so critical that he invariably takes that role for that gap of time, right? So that's
Got
how critical the CFO role has become. And if there is no CFO, CEO functions without, I would say, a right hand. Right hand is missing. It's as critical
it.
as that, and that's how
Mhm.
time becomes the essence. And you see, somebody who is playing the role of an interim CFO, or even nowadays you get somebody as a virtual CFO from outside. Those
Yeah.
opportunities are coming in to fill in that time period. But I would say it would be a bit chaotic to kind of manage, and hence it is very important to hire somebody very quickly, get somebody within the system, or get somebody from outside very quickly.
Got it. You've just opened up a Pandora's box now. CFOs transitioning into CEOs. I just have a ton of questions. Let me start with the first one. Do you think that's a trend that's gonna happen from now? Are you of the belief that more CFOs will end up becoming CEOs?
I think not may not be naturally. I think it's
Mhm.
something that you know if you're a seasoned CFO and you've been
Mm-hmm.
working with the business for a long period of time, I think a day will come when you feel, okay, I've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've seen so much of business,
Mm.
and if the product is something that the CFO can think of selling,
Yeah.
why not get into the shoes of a managing director or a CEO? And if you're able to understand the product better and this thing, why not, right? You have almost all the other things right.
Yeah.
And I go and visit the customers along with my CEO, right, many times. And so you kind of get that intuition, but it's a tough choice again. Two different roles. Many CFOs have done really well in the role of CEOs nowadays, but that trend is picking up. As I said, it's just that you have to trust your intuition and then jump into it and not look back. It's tough to look back once you get into that,
Yeah.
right?
I think the experience with business and operations, like you mentioned about a couple of minutes earlier, adds a lot of value to this CEO
Absolutely.
role.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. All right. Now we are into a segment where I want to understand more about the future of finance. So, what's
Yeah.
your bullish take or prediction for finance in the next 5 years?
So extremely bullish. I would say, the field is fast changing. There are many areas that are getting automated within the field of
Mhm.
finance, being mundane operations like, um, accounts receivable, accounts payable, the payments or the booking of invoices. You would have seen a lot of automation happening. And so that's when the becomes like a knowledge game, right? So how do you use your knowledge to up the game?
Mhm.
Use analytics. End of the day, you you have all the data, and what do you do with that, right?
Mm.
Artificial intelligence is coming, you just can't stop it, but at the same time you act like a bridge between the data, the accounting, all the other facets of finance and the
Yeah.
business. And that's the CFO function that I see in future, right? It can probably see, you will probably see the size coming down a little bit, but it will still play a major role. But I with that, you might ask, will the number of opportunities come down? No,
Mhm.
because the number of businesses will just multiply, right? And we are seeing that already. So the number of finance professionals in a particular organizations may come down, but
Mhm.
on the overall horizon, if you see, the number of
Yeah.
businesses that are just multiplying is just crazy. So I would say the opportunities are only plenty.
Got it. Got it. I think that's a very well put response. AI is not here to replace you in technical terms. You're just going to get elevated with the AI. There's plenty out there. Just go and try it out. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah,
a follow up, since you mentioned AI, I think today's conversation, there's no way you can talk about future and not mention AI.
yeah.
So, how's Varian leveraging AI, especially in the space of finance?
As I said, tools are just getting built, and we
Mhm.
are seeing the data that is coming out. I think right now we are relying more on Power BI
Mhm.
tools, and since it is B2B, the data sets are constrained. Uh,
Mhm.
I would say B2C, there is a more play that is happening in terms of
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, and I'm
True.
seeing, as I said, where I uh, closely, just I would say, I mentor a few companies in terms of
Mhm.
startups. I see a lot of potential of AI in the B2C segment, and kudos to you guys as well. Bluecopa is building a fantastic tool, and I had the opportunity to just have a glimpse of the tool, and that's
How?
that's that's the wonderful thing that AI can bring in. More data, more analysis, more intelligence comes in, and then better decision making.
Absolutely. That's very reassuring. Thank you, Girish. All
Okay.
right. So those were the things that I really wanted to understand from you. Uh, thank you very much for joining us on this show and sharing your valuable insights, Girish. Thank you.